working on a data set that is open source so that you have an opportunity, and the people that are working to judge what you've done, they have an opportunity. Pretty much everybody involved has an opportunity to look at your data, and there's no NDA or restrictions on the data. But the data is best if it's real. So my research that I've been working on over the summer, and really it goes back to mid to late last year in 2019, is largely falls within the domain of cybersecurity. And specifically what I'm looking at in my research is understanding how to measure and evaluate a security operations center, the analysts that work inside those security operations centers. And I look at it from a couple of different interesting ways that are novel. So over the summer, when I was looking to evaluate some of the work that I was putting together, I needed a data set. This data set came highly recommended by a cybersecurity firm that we partner with at USF, that I am also on the USF side. I'm in charge of the ReliaQuest Labs training program, that the focus of it is a very competitive training program where students compete to get into, and they have an opportunity for a cybersecurity internship and maybe even potentially a job. So I've been co-developing that program for over 2 years with ReliaQuest engineers and training specialists. And through my partnership with them and work that I've done with them in training and discussions I've had with their folks, they recommended that this data set is often used by cybersecurity firms to do things like test software, evaluate analytics, and it can also be used for research. So data set, we'll have, you guys will get access to some links if I don't know if I don't know if you've been shared how to get to the data, or I don't know how much you guys know yet. So I'm assuming Anders, Armando, or Zoe has not shared with you the link to it, but it's hosted on GitHub. And the data set's primary purpose in the beginning is that it's used for a competition by security operations center analysts, and they come from all over the place. They come to this contest, and there's this enormous data set that has been generated by a system called Splunk, which is used in cybersecurity by analysts to collect data, and not only by the analysts, but by IT departments in firms, to collect data in the form of logs, so events. So every time that someone logs into a server, a web server, or every time somebody does something with a system in a company's corporate network or enterprise network, those events are logged, and it's a lot of data that these security operations centers handle. So the scope of the contest is they give these competitive security operations center analysts a set of questions about the data, and they give them a period of time, and they give them access to the data, and they set up an instance of Splunk, and the analysts then just go at it, and they try to answer as many of these questions as possible. So once the contest is over, and the best operations center analyst wins, they open source the data set, post it on GitHub, tell you how to set it up, and allow you to use it, allow researchers to use it, because all of the data is real. It comes from real cybersecurity events from real firms, or the data was reproduced in a lab environment. So it really brings to light a very realistic scenario for analysts to evaluate this cybersecurity events. All of the events are real. There's also, the data comes with a bit of a warning. Just so you all know, because these are real cyber events, some of the customer information has been disguised, but there is profanity, maybe some very inappropriate things said inside the data. So if you're a bit sensitive to that, you know, I just want you to be aware of that. Because in real world data, when hackers are doing things to systems, they don't tend to be very let's say ethical. You know, there's perhaps going to be some things in there that are probably not appropriate. So if you're easily offended by that, we've talked about setting up the teams in potentially 3 different roles, and I'm sure Armando and Zoe and Anders will talk more about this. But essentially, each team needs to really carry the load for 3 different roles in order to work with this data set. The workflow of the data set really is like this. There has to be an instance of Splunk set up. Right now, Armando has it set up on his laptop. We can talk about, you know, ways that, you know, just recommending getting started with it. But the ultimate goal is to get Splunk set up on AWS, and they have a recommended setup. And then you load the data set that comes from the GitHub site provided by Splunk in this SOC contest. You load it into the database of the Splunk system. So then it just becomes sort of a static system with all these millions and millions and millions of rows of data. And then, so there has to be a team of, on your teams of 3, one person on the team has to be responsible for understanding the cybersecurity context of the data, which I have collected from Splunk. They have given me the questions that were offered, and I have hints, and I also have the answers. So what that means is that, but based on that information, as you address each question and we know where the endpoint is, we have to collect the data that answers that question. And it takes a bit of skill to do this. I've offered my help with this contest to at least provide domain expertise. Armando and Zoe and Anders, I told them to check with the contest rules. So all I'm doing is providing kind of as a consultant to the project, and I'll provide the subject matter expertise. If there's other folks that know someone who's really good with cybersecurity, or on your team you have someone who's very knowledgeable in cybersecurity, they can work with me to derive these data sets. So I go through a methodology that allows me to get a big chunk, perhaps in the hundreds of thousands of rows of data per se, depends on the cyber event and the question. We get the data from Splunk and we extract it into a CSV, and then we would hand it off to someone to conduct the data science portion of it. So what you're getting is the workflow is there needs to be an infrastructure component to this project. So we have to have students that are dedicated to understanding how to set up AWS. And there's lots of services that I mentioned to Armando, Zoe, and Anders that would be really beneficial to you to demonstrate your ability with AWS. And it's my understanding you're going to get a pretty good amount of access to AWS with this competition, which is extremely cool. So this is also a resume builder for you guys. And then when we go through the cybersecurity investigation piece, there needs to be that cyber liaison. that works with the SME, myself, and whoever else wants to join in that venture. Now, when we provide the answer of the data set, it will come in the form of a report and a CSV. So you will be handed 2 documents. Once we go through, there's about approximately 58 scenarios or cyber attacks inside this data set. So you could look through them. I went ahead and created a case study, which was part of my research over the summer, that involves an attack on an EC2 instance inside of AWS. And if you don't know what that means, hence the reason why you would want to have someone on your team that becomes very familiar with AWS and how all of these different services in AWS work within the context of this contest. So I chose a use case. I did a complete investigation. I provide a comprehensive document, which is about 10 to 15 pages long, of the investigation and everything that happens during this cyber attack. And with that, we collect this data set, which requires also some knowledge of Splunk. Splunk has its own query language that you have to write. And then based on the results of the Splunk query to answer the cybersecurity question, you output that to a CSV. Then based on that, you hand that CSV in this report to your teams. And so let's say, for instance, that the result of the investigation demonstrates a brute force attack on an EC2 instance on AWS. Well, now that you know what one looks like, you might be able to build a model, perhaps a data science model, that would predict or classify brute force attacks on EC2 instances, right? So there's a lot that you can do once you sort of have this subset and you understand its context and what it is. It's up to you to sort of choose how you might want to use an appropriate algorithm that fits within the machine learning or AI, whether it's a deep neural network, that deep learning, where, in the case of our research, we're building a deep neural network algorithm that attempts to classify a certain type of event. And so this could be used for the benefit of an operations center so that they could perhaps have a signature of an event based on the prediction from a deep neural network classifier. So, that's really what my involvement with this will be. And I hope you all consider pursuing this. Is there anything else I should add, Armando or Anders or Zoe?
I think you pretty much covered everything, Clinton. Thank you for that. I don't know if Armando and Zoe want you to add on something.
Armando?
No.
Zoe?
That's pretty much it for now. Samrat will have a little workshop on data extraction, and we'll show you how, at the end, we'll show you how the indexes work in Splunk and how to run queries in Splunk and actually output CSV data based on the answer Clinton developed himself.
Right. And, yes. and the other thing that's important, I mean, not only can you put on your resume that you have a good understanding and you've done a project using multiple services on AWS, but you're also being familiar with Splunk, Splunk, the system itself. And, Splunk is basically a log aggregator. It just collects logs from multiple types of systems. It doesn't have to be used in the context of cybersecurity. It can be used just as an IT tool for collecting and analyzing logs. But just the fact that you know and understand Splunk is a pretty big deal. And because there is a huge demand, so on the job side of this, I can tell you that there is an insane demand nationally, really internationally, but I'll just speak within the context of the US. There is an enormous demand for data science and analytics in cybersecurity. So the more, if this kind of thing interests you, not only just because you're getting a chance to learn AWS, but if the cybersecurity domain interests you, there is nothing short of jobs out there for you if you can demonstrate just the results of this contest. And the more, really what that comes with is years of experience in cybersecurity. You don't need to have that from day one. So the fact that you're applying data science and analytics to the domain of cybersecurity, that in itself is marketable.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Daniel, and we appreciate you being able to set aside some time to speak with us. I want to emphasize that over the summer and up to now, the executive board has been working very hard. My team has been working very hard for us to kind of find a way to expose these real world problems. Dr. Daniel just emphasized how that demand is so high, especially now, these real world problems to students. I say undergrad because I'm an undergraduate student myself, but also as many students as we can at USF. And I think we have a very interesting format to work with. So if Clinton doesn't have anything else to say, we'll go ahead and segue into the technical workshop, which will be the second part of this meeting. And basically what we're going to go ahead and do is that we're going to go through the things, as I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, go through the things that we have to think about when we actually have to get the data, right? Which is often really the most painful, or part of the, it could be a really painful process to just get the data for you to analyze, for the data scientists to analyze it. And as I was mentioning before, oftentimes being in taking these classes, you're kind of shielded from that process. So I'm going to go ahead and first of all congratulate Samra, because he has been elected as our new workshop coordinator, and hand off the rest of the presentation to him so that he can show us what's going on. Later on, I encourage you to stay on the call because Zoe's going to talk about how exactly our team's format is going to work. So first, let's go with Samra. Are you there? Are you ready?
Yes, Andros, I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Cool. Yeah. Can you share your? I think I have to share. So
yeah, I'm doing it right now. Can you guys see it?
I can't see
it.
Okay, great.
Yes.
First of all, thank you, Dr. Clinton, for sharing the overall picture of this competition. So, rest of you guys, like, this is not a hands-on workshop, because for you guys to install Splunk and all the add-ons right now, it's not possible in the time given to us. So you can just get an idea of how to get things, like how to get data, how to get started. I'm going to show that. So this is the GitHub page Dr. Clinton was earlier talking about. This is the documentation. So bots v3 dataset is the dataset which has got the log files, and we are going to work on this particular dataset. You guys can download the dataset from this particular GitHub page. And this page also tells us the installation process of the Splunk, and links are all provided down below. You need to follow the steps exactly mentioned here. Download the dataset and install Splunk Enterprise and apps and add-ons. We need all of the add-ons because this dataset, we can take full leverage of Splunk with all the apps and add-ons. So once you have installed the Splunk Enterprise on your desktops, you can put this downloaded data set in the Splunk home, wherever, like, let me show you. Usually it gets installed in the program file. So once you're done with installation of Splunk, a folder named Splunk will show up here. Inside Splunk, etc apps, etc apps. Inside this folder, you need to unzip this particular data set. Then you're set. So once you're done with the unzipping and installation, you have to restart the Splunk. Restarting Splunk, I will tell you in a second. I'll go to the exploration and how the Splunk interface looks. All of that in a second. So these are the various data source types included in the bots v3 data set. So all the links are given in this one particular page. I will be sharing this link in the chat or through mail. So this is the link for Splunk, first of all, and you need to just read this. Here you need to have all the softwares. It's a long list, I know, but half of them are, you just have to install this one thing first. Later, all other add-ons will be available in the Splunk app base. In that, it's just takes 1 or 2 minutes for everything, and this one particular thing may take 5 minutes. So let's go there. So this is the Splunk. It's free of cost. You just install and it gets installed in your system later on. The first page of the Splunk is going to look like this. So initially you'll not have all these extra apps and add-ons, but once you install all these, they're going to show up here. And how to do that? You just click on app base, scroll down and find more apps. Yeah, here we go. When you search any of these things, example, Tenable, copy, paste, search. Give me 1 second. I don't know why it's not loading. Oh. There's no network issue.
These things always happen, Samrat.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. These are the list of all available extra add-ons and apps, and you don't have to install all of them for now. But these are enough. Like, you have to have some. Tenable. Yeah, this one. I have already installed these things. That's why it's just showing open app. Otherwise, it would show install here. Install tab. You just click on install, enter the credentials, agree to the term, license and terms, and it's gonna show up here once you restart. Once you restart your Splunk, after that, whichever app add-ons you do, all of them will show them here. So that's one thing. And okay, we can add data to the Splunk enterprise. You're getting the whole picture, right? We found the database. Once we add that data set, we found the data set bots v3. We have to add that data set to the Splunk enterprise, and it is gonna give us millions of records of logs, system logs, and we are gonna analyze that and make a CSV out of it, and that CSV data science team will work on that to develop a solution or to devise an alert or threat. Or one data can be used for many purposes. Just these are the few applications of Splunk, what the corporate world uses. Like it can be used for many other things with all the machine logs, system logs. I can even see the log files of my particular this one laptop I'm using. That is also possible. All that is shown here. So what happened is the bots v3 dataset I have loaded into my Splunk folder. However, in the search query, when I search it, it's right now it's not showing because among all these app add-ons, you guys can see I did not find all of them. Some of the apps are archived. I'm sure there will be, they are present somewhere there. I'll get them, but as of now, I could not do that. So when I run this query, this is the search query. So once we have added the data set to Splunk, how are we gonna get the data out of it? That is using the search query entered in the search bar. This is the search bar wherein this is the query. I will enter this query and look if it is giving me any results. Ideally it should, but now it will not. See, I will do this. So there are 0 events because I have messed up somewhere in the loading of the dataset. However, I did upload the same bots v3 dataset manually by selecting add data, and I did just upload from directly the file. So I can run some queries on this particular dataset. I hope you guys are getting this is puzzling for the first time, even for me. After spending some couple of hours, it gets pretty easy. Nothing fancy. So while I click on this search query, whatever data already Splunk base has loaded, it will all show up here. And let's see the data summary. See, all the time, you don't have to write the entire query also. Like sometimes you just have to select it. See, host Splunk 3, and I did not write the query. It just shows up. And these are the once we run a successful query here, and there's a records matching our requirement, the data will show up here. These are the total number of events, and once you hover your mouse over these bars, all these 229 events, all these would add up to this particular this number. So that is 1 hour per column. So every hour these logs went through Splunk. So let me be more clear. What actually I'm doing is I have devised this query like okay. So any questions so far? Please ask me. No questions?
I had a quick question regarding the query parameter. You say host equals Splunk 3. Is Splunk 3 referencing the bots data set?
No, that is just the that is just the query I have decided. I'll show you how to write a query. Let me show you how to write a query. You'll understand it. What I did while writing that query is no, I did. I'm sorry. Even I'm new to this interface, so I'm a little confused. So yeah, I wanted to know what all happened with my particular directory here. This Splunk directory, I have quoted this particular path. This particular path I have fed here as a source. And I wanted to know what all happened, which all logs went there. So Splunk automatically gave me this particular query, and it is showing me while installing, while accessing Splunk, while running Splunk on this particular computer, many logs might have created. So this is the data of all that.
Okay, I
Yeah.
understand now. Thank you for that explanation.
Yeah. In a while, I can do that to any directory, not just Splunk. Splunk, I've just picked it. I will show you in a second, like how to do it for anything. Like not for the bots v3. For the bot v3 also, I will show it. Let's go there. So yeah, this is pretty much this thing, and whatever you enter in the search query, it is called search processing language, and this is the quick reference guide. It's a PDF. I'm going to share this also. Like you just have to get used to this. It's plain and simple. Like these are all the keywords and the descriptions. This one PDF will do. Like search processing language syntax, it's not heavy syntax. You just have to mention some conditions, like which host, which source, and the arguments, fields you want to see, all that sort of. And yeah, what we can do is, I'm sorry. Yeah, as I was telling, like we can upload data, or we can just monitor what's happening in my system. I'll just click on that monitor. I want to see some log files or files and directories, what's happening with that. I'll just browse and add some path. Okay. Which one would you guys prefer? Like which folder should I go into? Like I'll go into program file.
Okay.
Yeah, you were saying something?
I was curious about the SQL one, but it's fine. You can go there.
SQL, SQL I'm not going because I don't think I have done any. Yeah, let's go into that. Let's see if I'm practicing my SQL or not. Yeah, I have selected this source. It's like what I meant to say is you don't have to actually write the query. By selecting all these fields, Splunk is writing the query for us. So let everything, I'm just letting them just the way they are, and done. Start searching. So it will redirect us to the search query. And with this particular thing already popped up, and it shows, yeah, it is showing something for all time. So this is just one event. It is showing up. Maybe that's the, and it happened on, yeah, long ago. I've just installed and never used it again. So yeah, this data is very unstructured, and with once we master how to use write kind of search queries, I'm sure we can extract some meaningful data out of all of this. You guys get it? Yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, and I'm pretty much done. But since I could not load the bots v3 dataset perfectly, I could not run one query given by Dr. Clinton. But however, you guys, once you are mastered it, you guys can try it. And this is the question. Like, once you guys can successfully load bots v3 dataset to the Splunk, and it's gonna have all the log files, and you can answer many questions with that. One such question would be, how do you list out IAM users? IAM is like identity access management in AWS. If anyone is if anyone is aware about AWS Amazon Web Services, every Amazon Web Service account user will have one IAM ID. It is just that identity and access management, like who can use what services and all. This may sound not very familiar right now, but you guys will figure out. So in our data set, how do we list out IAM users that accessed an AWS service? And there are hundreds of AWS services, as Dr. Clinton told. Like, there's a service for everything, for data science, for machine learning, for image classification, for QuickSight, like for analytics and reports. Everything is there, successfully or unsuccessfully, if they could log in or if they could not access it. Yeah.
So Samrat, if you want, I can go over the alternative way to install add-ons and running the query, like Clinton ran earlier with me today.
Yeah, that's great. Can you show that?
Sure.
Cool. I'll stop this then. Yeah, you can take over.
Before we do that, any questions for Samrat?
Yeah. I just want to thank him real quickly for that very excellent introduction to Splunk. But go ahead, Armando.
It was very good. Thank you, Samrat. So the problem, as Samrat said, with the add-ons for the data set, the add-ons for Splunk to be able to recognize and read some of the indexes and the source types that are in there, is that some of these add-ons are archived. So for example, I think AWS Guard Duty should be indexed or sorry, archived, so we won't be able to download it from Splunk. So what we do instead is we hit on download, we download to our computers, and we could load it. Let me just go to the page to load it. We can add an app and load it from our manage app dashboard. Basically, we can just browse, choose file. Once you choose it, it will load. Any questions with that?
Yeah, cool. I did not know this, so that's the reason I could not load it. Yeah, now I can do that.
It's very tricky. It might take you honestly an hour to just set up Splunk, but at the end of the day, it's really rewarding.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, what the problem in question was is this query right here. So they for the original competition for the bots data set, they wanted us to list the users that access an AWS service in somebody's AWS environment. So I'll just go ahead and give you the answer for that. It's right here, right? So it's basically going through the bots index and choosing the source type AWS CloudTrail. I'll just show real quick how it works. Once you run this query, you'll have the usernames that access the AWS service during that time frame, and you can actually drill down and see the events for each user. It's extremely helpful when trying to work with Splunk. The problem with Splunk is that we cannot just output all the data as CSV and use our own tool for analysis. We need to be careful about it. We need to be smart about it and actually think about the query, execute the query, and only output the data that we're gonna use, especially because we have limitations with the server, and also because just pulling data randomly at the end of the day won't help us in our analysis. And to pull the data out, what you can do is just output CSV, use something called pipe, and just use the command output CSV, and just type the name of the command, the file you're going to output. So I'm going to just test the CSV and run it. and you'll find this. You'll find this in your Splunk setup. I can send you the whole file directory, but as you can see, let me share my Excel screen. I do not recommend you guys use Excel, but I will use share it to prove the point that it can be shown in CSV. So here it is. We can see the usernames, the count of events, the percentage of events, and I'll just go back to Splunk. That's pretty much it for the queries we can do for the first question. However, we have another question if you're there enough to try. Once you set up Splunk and install the add-ins, you'll be ready for this question, which is the second question up in the list. What is the processor number using the web servers? Now, I don't have time to do it right now and in this workshop, but it's something for you to try. If you wanna, I'll upload the question in the Discord as long with the hint, and we can work this through the following 2 weeks. Any questions? All right.
Hey, I'm sorry, I had one question. I was writing down that question though before I could ask. So when we start installing Splunk on our personal computer, should we all install Splunk, on our own personal computers, or should we wait for our team and then have one person install Splunk, or like what kind of is this an assignment for everybody, or just like by team basis?
So as Clinton say, at the end of the day, we're gonna have in each team one person dedicated to architecture, one for cybersecurity, and another one just for machine learning. Even though we're gonna have this separation, it's ideal for all members of all teams to know what's going on at every single step. Because at the end, the judges are gonna look at that, and at the end, if you qualify, you'll present, and all of you are expected to understand the whole process. Now, eventually, the idea is to have Splunk set up in an AWS EC or a AWS virtual machine, pretty much the same thing. So you don't have to run this in your computer. However, since we're starting and we need to understand Splunk before we even attempt to do it remotely, it's a good idea for us all to just install it in our computers and run it.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for the explanation.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Armando. I know that we're a little bit pressed on time, but I encourage you to stay a bit for Zoe's part. But before we do that, I think we've kind of gotten a sense of how difficult this data extraction process might be, right? We're looking at this proprietary platform. We have to get familiar with how to write queries to extract, to even look at the data, right? And this pain is precisely what I want to emphasize. I suspect that there are perhaps people on the call who are like, what am I looking at? What is what is happening? And that's completely and totally fine. That's completely totally fine. And indeed, part of the challenges that the data scientists what they have to face is kind of, how much do I need to know about the domain? We have Clinton helping us with that, but how much do I need to know about the domain and the specific processes that are being tackled before I can actually begin my work, which is what we're going to focus on, which is the actual data science, right? The machine learning and the deep learning. But as Armando was emphasizing, we need to be able to understand what is it exactly that Splunk is capturing, right? And right now, I totally 100% get that it may not be clear to us at the moment, but that's kind of what this process entails. That's what it takes for us to do this successfully. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Zoe. Zoe's going to talk about our team. She's also our VP, and how that's going to look like for the next few weeks in terms of what immediately are the deliverables that we're going to tackle. So go ahead, Zoe.
All right. So initially we had thought that we'd just split it up into like 2 or 3 major teams just because we were unsure about how to extract the data and if it was going to be a lengthy process. But as Samra has walked through with, it's just more of a learning curve, but once you get your feet wet, it's kind of easy to pick up and it's a valuable skill. So we want everyone to be engaged in that process. So within teams of 3, there's going to be the data scientist, which acts as the machine learning modeler, and you're doing the research, and you will also be coordinating with the cybersecurity analyst because you need to figure out what research questions are you trying to pull from the data, and then how does the data scientist pull that for you. So those 2 relationships are going to be close together. And then we also have the data ops / AWS architect / hopefully our little Splunk expert by the end of this. I would like each of you guys to send me a message through Discord or email, which one is easier for you, or Canvas. And you can just say, I'm interested in this role, and this role, and this role. I know some of you guys have already messaged me about your interest, but I would just like you guys to point out which one you would like. Otherwise, I'll just start pairing up people. I just want everyone to be excited for this competition and engaged in something that they actually are being invested in, since we do have cash prizes towards this and we are working in teams. For basic team to do basic stuff, we're using GitHub to store our code. We created a branch for at least this competition, and then we're working on that structure, so we'll email you guys that later on. Probably our next meeting, we'll show that a little bit so you can see where you can store your code, or at least things you can reference when you are doing your analysis. Discord should be used for communicating with your team. I mean, feel free to set up a group chat with your team. Use any tool you really like to. I know I like Google Colab, and then Anders the other day introduced us to Visual Code, where you can simultaneously write code with your teammates. So you guys can try that out. But I like to emphasize that this is an AWS competition. So, try, get out of your comfort zone and try the stack of tools. You can always just Google AWS developer tools or the analytics tools. There are so many for you guys to try. So, I mean, hey, look around, and the competition, at least for using their platform, is free. I mean, there's a limit on credits, but if you want to have more credits, you just message them through Slack. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll send you updates about how we're going to structure out, I guess, where you store your code, and it's pretty much up to you guys to figure out what role you want to take on, and then I'll send you guys an email or a message through Discord probably before our next meeting on what your team assignment is. So, yep, that's it.
Thank you, Zoe. And something that I want to stress that Zoe said is that the teamwork is really going to be important for this competition. Being able to kind of allow yourself to delegate these roles that are emerging from the task at hand, I think will really contribute to the success of how we as a university, i.e. the data science at USF organization, tackle this challenge. So I definitely encourage you to ask us questions on Discord. Absolutely. We're posting links on there, resources very frequently. And definitely once Zoe creates the teams and that's figured out, definitely communicate with your team members about tackling this. We're going to be designing some deliverables over the next few weeks so that we can hopefully help guide people towards what the challenge is asking of us. But that collaboration will be an important component of this challenge. So with that being said, that basically is everything that we have. I know that I certainly hope that there are questions. So we'll stay on, or I'll stay on for a few more minutes to kind of field some questions. And I just want to thank everybody for coming.
Hello. I have a question about the Discord. Like, how do I get to message you guys?
Sure. So there should be an invitation link that's been sent out on various channels. I'll go ahead and drop it again through here, I hope, although I'm not sure if messages are showing up here. But there should be an invite link where you basically make your account if you don't have one, and then you'll be put into the server.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Hey, I have a question. I'm not sure if this is a good time to ask it, but it's more about the technical aspects of Splunk. But okay. So I remember seeing the data sources as you're scrolling down. Like if you go to the GitHub and you look at the data that's available for the bots data set, it says data sources, and then you need to add those apps to look at all those data sources. So I was wondering, are those data sources system logs for different applications?
From what I gleaned, yes, but Samrat, can you confirm that for me? Don't know if he's.
Hi. Yeah. Can you repeat the question? I only understood half of it.
Yeah, of course. So when you were scrolling through the GitHub, you and Armando, there's a section that says like the available apps and then what the data sources or data types are within the bots database. So do you need the external apps to match to those data sources because they're system logs for those applications?
Exactly. These are like plugins, because in the data source you can see AWS CloudWatch, CloudTrail. Unless we don't have the AWS add-on, there's no way we can link our AWS account to that. Or in this case, the data is already there, but still, for that data source to be processed by Splunk, we need that particular add-on.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Ted. Anyone else?
I have a question. I noticed that you guys are recording this video. I didn't get to join it since the beginning of it. Will it be posted